Loose lips sink ships. This particular saying came from World War II when there were posters that the military had describing how even a military wife or family chatting over coffee in a restaurant or any number of other things could, without realizing it, give information that could be overheard by an enemy, a spy. And because of that information, a ship somewhere, wherever that family member was, could be in danger. And the ship could be sunk. We are in a real war involving real lives and danger. The risks are how we conduct ourselves can place others at risk. And domestic violence is one example. But this war is far broader than this. We can't force others to change. We can change ourselves to reduce the risk. We can be informed. We can raise our awareness of how our behavior can place others at risk. We can become more aware of how things we innocently say or share can cause harm to increase the risk to both abusers and victims. We can make confidentiality our lifestyle. Rule number 1, tell no tales. Examples. I saw your ex-wife at church. I saw him driving his white truck. He or she seems so happy now. He or she seems to be struggling. These are all examples. Sharing of any information places those who are struggling with domestic violence at risk. Rule number 2, information can often be misused. We have no idea how seemingly innocent and simple information, such as the examples that were just given, can be misused. We have no idea how a mind darkened by abuse can use simple information to add fuel to the fire and increase the risk of violence. This is especially so when domestic violence gets to be stalking, harassing, someone's trying to separate and be safe. This risk increases. Rule 3, follow the biblical principle. Talk to the person and only to the person involved. Be aware that stalking is increasing for those struggling with domestic violence and abuse. Tell no tales is the best policy. Rule number 4, churches are good sources of gossip. Focus in church is on friendship, sociability. Focus is on helping people feel welcome. Churches that seem more loving and sociable may also be sources of information for the wrong person. We mistake freely sharing information as a sign of our freedom in Christ. And for those of us that go to 12-step recovery groups or other self-help groups, this rule number 4 also applies. Rule number 5, don't take sides. Churches that are loving and supportive of recovery often err by taking sides. Those fellowshipping in a church setting draw conclusions about who is innocent and who is the wrong party in a breakup. But taking sides places people at risk, especially in abuse. Rule number 5, don't take sides. Continuing on, people who are abusive often manipulate and control things so that they appear innocent, and often the more victimized a person has been, the more they will appear broken and to have signs of mental and emotional stress or instability. Rule number 6, a hornet's nest. The more destructive the domestic violence has been in a relationship, the more others may see the abuser versus victim alternate roles or appear to alternate roles. When police respond to a 911 call for domestic violence, this type of call has the highest risk of harm to the rescuer. Police have made in the past delayed going out because of this, which was a safety tactic for them, and fortunately some police departments have heard the information that they need to go out right away, but it's still a call either way where they are at risk. So remember that principle. The rescuer can be more at risk. Rule number 7, a honeymoon is risky and dangerous. The church often finds itself in conflict when the abuser asks for forgiveness. Confession and forgiveness often becomes part of the honeymoon phase of domestic violence. The victim is more at risk when pressured to forgive, and abuse is more likely to reoccur. Rule number 8, watch for stalking. Stalking is part of the domestic violence cycle. Stalking is increasing. You can see that in the news. Stalking is dangerous to the victim and to others, including family, friends, and church. There are any number of ways to gain information about someone and use this information to stalk them. Solutions. Accept unconditionally when someone tells you that they are being abused or stalked. You don't have to be judge and jury. Remember that loose lips sink ship for this and other situations. Listen confidentially. Solutions. As far as possible, do not share information from one person to another. Remember that an ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure when it comes to this issue. Remember that you are dealing with a hornet's nest. Solutions. Encourage the victim to use support from a domestic violence shelter or other legal actions as needed to be safe. Do not be discouraged at the dance couples may do who are struggling with domestic violence. There's a number of issues with this, but it can be helpful to remember both of these principles and support the person either way. Solutions. Remember, you can't fix this problem. Neither can the couple struggling with this issue. You can listen. You can be informed. You can suggest counseling. You can set boundaries. Solutions. Remember that violence and stalking increase the risk of lethality to the victim. Often, the safest solution is to get away and start a new life and identity. Talk about what you know with church leadership. Make sure they know about unsafe situations or concerns that exist, and make sure that they know to be confidential. Remember Churches are good sources of gossip, and that promotes this problem. So even among leadership. Spiritual solutions. Remember the spiritual armor. Ephesians 6. Continue to pray for this armor as you pray about yourself and others dealing with this. Even though loose lips sink ships, remember that praying lips can and have saved ships. Spiritual solutions. There is a need for praying lips to help couples struggling with domestic violence and other difficult issues. There is a need for prayer warriors for this issue. Here are some resources. The National Resource Center on Domestic Violence, the National Domestic Violence Hotline for stalking behavior. There's a Stalking Resource Center, and the Hope of Survivors for Clergy Sexual Abuse.